What is going on, you guys? This is DerekJ Speaks, and we are here to talk about WWE Saturday night's main event from November 1st, 2025, live in Salt Lake City. A show with 4 championship matches, 2 title changes, and 1 big screw job. So that really sums up this edition of Saturday night's main event. Nothing overly special, but you did have some news coming out of this show. Like I said, we have a new World Heavyweight Champion crowned in CM Punk. We have a brand new WWE Women's Champion in Jade Cargill. Dominic Mysterio survives yet again with his Intercontinental Championship. Cody Rhodes survived against Drew McIntyre. Poor Drew gets screwed over yet again. This guy just can't buy himself a win in a world championship match. We'll get to that. And we got a big announcement regarding John Cena and the next edition of Saturday night's main event. Of course, that takes place on December 13th in Washington, D.C. We got a little bit of clarification as to who, or at least potentially who, will be facing Cena in his last match, because we got a huge announcement about a 16-man tournament that will determine who will face Cena in his last match. So we got some newsworthy stuff on this show, but as far as Saturday night's main event shows go, I guess this one had more positive news and, more things going on than they usually do. Past shows that we've gotten this year have kind of just come and gone, no real consequence to be made. This one at least had 2 championships change hands, and we had the big Cena announcement and all that stuff. So, it did serve its purpose, but do I feel like I still could have skipped it and would have been fine? Yeah. There were some good matches on the show, but nothing that was so good where it's like, damn, I'm glad I caught that live as it happened. It was just that great. No, not really. The opening match was good. Jade had basically a squash match over Tiffany, aside from a few hope spots, but I still liked it because that's exactly how Jade Cargill needs to be booked more often than not. The triple threat was fun. That was probably my favorite match of the night. The main event, a little underwhelming for a majority of the first, I'd say, half of it, and then it started to kick into second gear towards the end, although I could have done without not just the finisher spam, because we're going to get that in main events. It wasn't even as much that as it was a lot of times guys were not selling each other's finishers, especially when they were hitting each other with each other's own finishers. We'll get into it. I'll explain it a little bit. But yeah, so that was that. But, this really wasn't that long of a show. It was around 2 hours, started at 7 p.m. Eastern, ended at 9 p.m. So a nice solid 2-hour show. We'll get into it from start to finish here. And we start with the way they started the show, which was the WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre challenging Cody Rhodes for the title, where if Cody were to be counted out or disqualified, he would have lost his championship, which gave a bit of an advantage to Drew and made things at least a little less predictable, in that Cody could have lost his championship in any way. And it did come into play in this match as Drew was trying different things to antagonize Cody and rile him up. We also got a really cool, I hesitate to say near fall, but a cool spot where Drew knocked Cody off of the apron and Cody went flying all the way, crashing through the announce table, and the referee started the count. So Cody almost got counted out and lost his championship. That really got a big rise out of the crowd there because they thought they were about to see a title change. So I thought the handling and the booking of the stipulations for this match made it a little bit more exciting. It had the crowd really into it. Plus, this being the first match, both guys being 2 major stars, that helped a little bit too. At one point, Cody looked like he tweaked his knee. It didn't really play a huge factor into the finish of the match, so Not sure how legit that was or not. I guess, if any news comes out by the time you hear this, that will determine it or not. I only consider it being something real because it really didn't play into the finish all that much. But regardless, that was something that happened here. And of course, everything built up to the referee being knocked down. So Drew drove Cody into the corner, and the ref just so happened to be there, and he collapsed, and the two men were left fighting by themselves. Drew got up, he went outside, and he grabbed the belt, and he was going to use it on Cody, but Cody managed to avoid it. And then, as both men were down, Drew was going after the belt again. Cody gets up first, and he grabs Drew. And Drew, while holding the championship belt down, basically, or the belt was on the ground near both men. And this was important because Cody hit the DDT on Drew McIntyre onto the championship belt. But it's not just that. Cody had Drew in position for the DDT, but he was looking over at the referee, who was still down, knocked out, faced the other way. And so Cody, while looking over there, basically was confirming that the referee wasn't looking. Then he hits the DDT onto the belt. And then he picks up the belt. He tosses it aside. Meanwhile, the referee is none the wiser, and Cody made sure of that. And then as the referee gets back up, turns back around, Cody hits the crossroads and gets the win. So Cody Rhodes is still the champion. Drew gets screwed yet again. I think Drew is something like 1-9 in championship matches since like 2021, 2022, something like that. The man, his only championship victory in the past couple of years was at WrestleMania 40 when he won the title for about 5 minutes. So poor Drew, still screwed over again, a complete loser and a bit of an idiot here, allowing himself to, he almost cheated using the belt, but it got used against him. But this is ammunition for him to once again complain and bitch and moan about being screwed over, and could once again lead to a rematch between these two at Survivor Series. I was not expecting a championship title change here in this match. Out of all the championship matches on this show, to where I thought a new champion could be crowned, this was one of the ones where, even though I was really hoping for it, I really would have loved to have seen Drew win the championship here. I did think that this was probably the least likely, at least in terms of the main 3 world championship matches on this show. I thought this was the one where very likely we're not going to get a title change. And that's exactly what happened. But they did it in such a way where Drew got screwed over again. The referee got knocked down. Even though Drew incidentally caused it, the referee got knocked down. Cody DDT'd him onto the championship belt, knowingly. It wasn't even like an accident. Cody knowingly and willingly cheated in this match. Even though Drew was the one to introduce the championship belt into the ring, it was used against him. So Drew does have a right to complain, and that could lead to a rematch. Could Randy Orton come back and get involved and they make it a triple threat at Survivor Series? It's possible. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's possible. I do think, whether people want to see it or not, and I already saw it on my own timeline, people just calling Drew a loser and a failure and all that stuff, which he is. But I do think we're going to still get another match, and whether it's a straight-up singles match or a multi-person match, I do think Drew is going to get one more crack at that championship. And at that point, if he still fails, then there's no hope for Drew McIntyre. In a lot of people's minds, the fact that he failed on this show, it's over for him and he shouldn't get a rematch. They did show his face in that little video package when they were going through the John Cena tournament announcement, and they were showing different faces in there. They did show Drew, so maybe this was it for him and he's going to move on and he'll be in that tournament to see who's going to face Cena in his last match, and he won't get a championship match against Cody. Maybe, possibly, but I do think we're going to get a rematch at Survivor Series. And boy, it would suck if Drew McIntyre lost again. Man, between Drew McIntyre and LA Knight, these guys, under Triple H's creative booking, they often do not fare very well. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. The match was good. It was pretty good. It was a good opener. Again, the crowd was hot for it. And I don't know about you, but I thought I heard a little bit of boos there for Cody towards the end. Before I move on there, I should mention how Cody did do that. And could that have also been not only just another example of Drew getting screwed over, but could that also be maybe a subtle tease for a future Cody Rhodes heel turn? This is something that gets the internet fans all riled up and excited. Fantasy booking a Cody Rhodes heel turn. A lot of people are very bored of Cody and they want to see something fresh from him, and they think a heel turn will do that. So I don't think they're going to do it. Cody's still the guy. He's still the top babyface in the company. It's not Roman. Roman he's even less than part-time. He is a special attraction for here and there appearances. So he's not that guy. Cody is the guy. He was crowned the guy last year, and he's been the guy ever since. So you have other options for people who, if they wanted to bring them up and put in that spot, if they wanted to go through with a Cody Rhodes heel turn. I just don't think it's something that's going to happen imminently. But could something like tonight be like the first glimpse and first tease towards that happening? Maybe. I guess we'll see how it plays out. But that's all I got to say about that for now. Up next was Jade Cargill challenging Tiffany Stratton for the WWE Women's Championship. Jade turned heel on Tiffany, I think, last week, as of this recording, on SmackDown, the previous week's SmackDown. She came out, she turned heel, she looks badass with her scar over her eye and all that. And this was like her third shot at the championship, counting SummerSlam. This was about her third or fourth shot at Tiffany and that title. So regardless of what you think about Tiffany, or I should say what you think about Jade and her experience level and all that, she should not have been in a position to lose again as a freshly turned heel in this new badass presentation. And the fact that Tiffany came into this match as a one-legged woman. Her knee was all bandaged up and heavily taped up, so she had a handicap heading into this match. There was no reason for her to win this match, and she did not. Although this match was far more one-sided than what I was thinking it would be, but what I honestly was hoping it would be. Again, they just turned Jade heel. She has a new presentation, a new attitude about herself. They have made it very clear that Tiffany's hurt. They had the general manager, Nick Aldis, pleading with her, like, think about this, don't go through with this. You're not fully healed. You're not quite 100%. Are you sure you want to do this? So already planting those seeds of doubt with Tiffany and the fact that she was already not 100% heading into this match, it paved the way for them to have a fairly dominant performance from Jade. And aside from a few hope spots from Tiffany, Jade pretty much dominated the match. She went after the knee. She was tossing her around, hitting a bunch of big power moves. And in the end, she hit several power bombs in a row and then got Tiffany up for the Jaded and won the match. And she is the brand new WWE Women's Champion, Jade Cargill. So good for her. And I don't know when Bianca Belair will be back. She is still nursing a broken finger, which, boy, that was some broken finger there. But maybe WrestleMania will be the destination for that. And if they keep booking Jade like this, as dominantly as they did on this show, I think that will fare very well for her in the future. So let's start building up to that. There's not a whole lot of other options for Jade to feud with between then. So maybe, think about that. They already need to reshape that roster as is on SmackDown. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Jade Cargill with the win here in this match. After that, we had a triple threat for the Intercontinental Championship. Dominic Mysterio defending against Penta and Rusev. Again, of the matches on this show, this was probably one of my favorites. This was just fun chaos from all three of these men. You know, they've worked together in different singles matches. We've had Dom versus Penta. We had Dom versus Rusev. We had Rusev versus Penta. So all three are great, and all three meshed very well in this match. The finish, to me, was never really in any doubt. Dominic did retain his Intercontinental Championship. He was pulling some shenanigans in here. We had Rusev lock Penta in the Accolade, and then we heard the bell ring, and Rusev thought that he got the win. So he let go, and he raised his arms in victory. Lo and behold, it was Dom over by the timekeeper's area just ringing the bell. And then this led to the bell hammer making its way into the ring. Dom went to go get it. Penta put his foot on it. He picked it up. He went to use it on Dom. Dom ducked. He hit Rusev with it. Dom threw Penta out of the ring, went up top, and hit a frog splash onto Rusev to retain his Intercontinental Championship. So Dom always finding these unique, creative ways to cheat his way or just skirt by to get a win. It wasn't necessarily cheating here in this match because there was no disqualification. So by all accounts, he won clean here. But he always finds these different ways of barely escaping with his championship. I was surprised we didn't see any of the Americanos appear in this match, but none of that outside crap. It was just Dom. And like I said, Dom retaining here wasn't much of a shock if you are someone who has paid attention to the rumors lately about a potential Dominic Mysterio John Cena match for Survivor Series, where the Intercontinental Championship might be on the line in that match, with John Cena potentially winning the championship and becoming a Grand Slam champion. Now, a lot of people care about that a lot. They want to see it. That's the one big main championship that John Cena has never held. It's important to a lot of people, not necessarily me. I don't really care all that much about it, but, you know, it is what it is. Clearly, it matters to enough people to where WWE is now factoring it into John Cena's final matches here. Because it looks like in his final match, or one of his final matches, he will win that championship and very likely is going to lose it at Saturday night's main event in his last match against whoever's going to win this 16-man tournament. It's going to be people from Raw, from SmackDown, from NXT, even some people outside of the company. As John Cena said in his narrated promo package announcing this tournament, I am fairly certain it's going to be one of the guys who they showed in the graphic, which was Gunther. Gunther's been gone since SummerSlam. He had a nose injury. He's been on the shelf. Honestly, creative probably just didn't have a whole lot for him, so they held him out, and he has been the rumored final opponent for John Cena for many, many months, ever since he was the one who beat Goldberg in his retirement match back in July, so it makes sense for it to be Gunther. So we are very likely looking at a scenario where John Cena wins the Intercontinental Championship at Survivor Series. Gunther wins this The Last Time Is Now tournament, and he challenges John Cena for the Intercontinental Championship and beats him for it and retires John Cena. And does Gunther need the Intercontinental Championship back? No. I thought he was above that, but whatever. But there you go. That's all that stuff there. And then we get to the main event. Just like that. It's CM Punk and Jey Uso fighting for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins out with an injury for what he claims to be 6 months. After what he pulled this summer, I can't believe a word out of this man's mouth. I need to see medical records to confirm that. And even that, I probably don't believe. That's what happens when you do stuff like that. But regardless, we had Punk and Jay here in this match. And like I said, the match itself for the first few minutes was not all that interesting. It was very slow. the crowd was into it. They were kind of split. They were more into Punk than they were Jay. We often don't hear Jay get real boos from the live crowds. A lot of the hate towards Jey Uso is mainly seen online and isn't really translated onto the live shows. So that was interesting to hear some boos for him, or at least more cheers in favor of Punk. But again, the match, it was fine. It was just a standard TV match. Then it started to ramp up a little bit. There was more of a back and forth between the two men. They started hitting each other with their finishers. Punk with the GTS, Jay with the Uso splash. Both men kicked out of it. Not really much of an issue. But then we started to see them not really sell the finisher. Punk was trying to do this thing. He's done it before with people like Seth Rollins and I think even MJF or Hangman Page in AEW, where he hits the GTS, the person bounces off the ropes, and they fall onto his shoulders for him to hit it again. He did something like that similarly with Jey Uso here, but Jay immediately got up, and I think that was a part where he locked Punk in a sleeper, so it was like he just no-sold it, basically. We had a part where both men stole each other's finishers, where Jay hit Punk with a GTS, but then Punk got right up and hit a spear, a very weak-looking spear, on Jay, as if Jay's spears are already weak. So we found an even weaker spear with Punk here. But regardless, they do that. And of course, all these finishes are kicked out of, which is a problem all across the board in wrestling these days, whether it's WWE, AEW, outside companies. It's all across the board in pro wrestling, and it's very annoying, the frequency in which it happens. But regardless, sometimes it works. Sometimes, I get into it and it's fine. Other times it is very, very annoying and can drag down a match. Here, it both dragged the match down, but also made it more lively because by this point the crowd was up more. They were hanging on the near falls. So it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't type of thing. Whatever. In the end, CM Punk did hit another GTS. Jay did bounce off the ropes, collapsed onto his shoulders, and Punk hit him with one final GTS and got the win. And he is the brand new World Heavyweight Champion. No signs of the Braun Breaker, or Bronson Reed. No outside interference, no shenanigans, no bullshit. They went off the air with CM Punk raising the World Heavyweight Championship high over his head. So they did not wait. They wanted to crown a new champion on this show, and they did it. So hats off to them for doing that. They didn't want this to go beyond this show, probably because they already had the idea of the John Cena tournament, and they didn't want to deviate from that. So good on them. Punk's champion. I don't know what this means for Survivor Series. I don't know if there's still a plan in place to do a War Games match with The Vision and CM Punk and maybe even the Usos and Roman Reigns and all that stuff. No real signs on TV have pointed to that, but that's because everything was building up to this show. So now that Saturday night's main event has come and gone, we'll see starting this Monday if they start to refocus back onto the idea of doing these guys involved in a War Games match. But that's it for the show. like it was fine. Again, it was better than a lot of these other Saturday night's main event shows, which feel like glorified house shows or just Raw / SmackDown light. This kind of was that. The matches themselves, a lot of them were fine enough, but it wasn't like anything crazy or epic happened. Punk won the championship. The fans went crazy for it. Honestly, I thought Punk winning the championship would be a bigger moment than here, but it is what it is. It's the situation that fell into their laps. They didn't want to be too creative with it, so they just wanted to keep things as straightforward as possible. Like, Seth's down with an injury, well, let's put the belt on Punk. And simple as that. Drew and Cody, again, I do suspect that Drew is going to get another championship match against Cody, but once again, Drew loses and Cody wins. Regardless of the reasoning and the storyline behind it, it's on paper, Cody Rhodes wins, Drew McIntyre loses yet again. So, not great, but again, I have hope. Call it false hope, but I have hope nonetheless. But we'll see how that plays out. If Drew does get another shot, if he does finally win, will it matter? Maybe not, but we'll see what happens there. And the other two championship matches, Jade winning again very dominantly, very well booked, and Dominic still the champion. I imagine his reign is going to last just a few more weeks until he runs into that brick wall known as John Cena. So that's all there is for this now. After this, I don't know, and I'm back to you guys. We're getting 4 different War Game style matches in the month of November. AEW is going to have their Blood and Guts show from Greensboro on November 12th. So there's going to be a men's one and a women's one on that show. In fact, at the same time as Saturday Night's main event tonight, there was Collision airing on TNT, and they did announce the participants in the women's Blood and Guts match after already making the announcement of the men's one earlier in the week. So we're going to get that from AEW. And of course, WWE very clearly seems like they're setting up for their standard 2 War Games matches, one for the men, one for the women. So that's a lot of 2 ring, 1 cage matches in one single month, like a week or so apart from each other. But such is the state of wrestling now. So I'll probably be back to talk about Blood and Guts. I'll be back to talk about Full Gear. And then, of course, I will be back to talk about Survivor Series at the end of the month. But until then, if you like what you heard, like what you see, hit that like button, subscribe, comment down below, and, of course, follow me on Twitter/X at DerekJ Speaks. Until then, check you later.